Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa on France 24. I'm Vedika Bahel, and here's the top headlines from across the continent. Towering 170 metres high and stretching nearly 2 kilometres across the Blue Nile, Ethiopia officially unveiled Africa's largest hydroelectric dam. It's expected to supply electricity to millions of Ethiopians, though it also risks deepening rifts with neighbours Egypt and Sudan, concerned about their water reserves. After 2.5 years of war, those who've managed to flee the besieged Sudanese city of El-Fasher describe the horrors there. It includes deadly and constant bombardment, pockets of famine, and turning to animal feed to survive. And in a sensational turnaround, Senegal defeated the DR Congo to reclaim the top spots in the group for the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. The Lions of Teranga triumphed 3-2 against the Leopards in a sold-out stadium in Kinshasa. But first, we bring you the latest from the North Kivu province in the Democratic Republic of Congo. According to security officials, 71 people have been killed in an overnight attack by fighters linked to the Islamic State group. Local authorities say the Allied Democratic Forces group struck a village whilst residents were attending a burial. According to an AFP tally, since July, the group has killed more than 150 civilians across North Kivu and Ituri provinces. Next, the largest hydroelectric dam in Africa was inaugurated Tuesday morning in Ethiopia. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed hails the project as a, quote, shared opportunity for the region that's expected to generate electricity to millions of homes in Ethiopia. Now, it took 14 years of work to bring the 1,800-metre-long structure into operation, but it's also deepened rifts with the countries located downstream of the Nile. Our regional correspondent, Bastien Renouy, talks us through it.
It's a huge achievement for Ethiopia's development. It will double its electricity production, and it's very important for that country since almost half of its population still has no access to electricity. It was a huge celebration next to the dam. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed welcomed Kenya, Djibouti's and Somalia's president, but it's worth mentioning that two countries were absent, Sudan and Egypt. These two countries depend on the Nile River for their water supply, and they are afraid of the impact that the dam could have on the Nile River.
The geopolitical competition between Egypt and Ethiopia is historic, and right now it's at one of its most acute moments in modern history. And so what is at dispute, what is at stake now, is not simply the flow of the river, but for both countries, a sense of their overall security in this geopolitical contestation.
During the past years, negotiations have been organized between Egypt and Ethiopia to decide how Addis Ababa could use the Nile's waters, but without success. Since the beginning of the year, Egypt has a new ally, Donald Trump. He has been frequently criticizing the dam. And during the past months, Egypt deployed men in Somalia. Officially, these soldiers are there to fight the terrorist Islamist group Al-Shabaab, but Addis Ababa considers them as a threat, so tensions are still very high between the two countries.
Our correspondent Bastien Renouy. To Sudan now, where the siege by paramilitary rapid support forces tightens around the city of El-Fasher. Living under constant shelling, the few able to pay for their escape describe the deadly conditions and violence at checkpoints, all to get out of a city where people have resorted to eating animal food to survive. Laurent Bachtiker has more.
Trying to turn a new leaf after months of horror, Ahmed Hajali recently arrived in the Al-Daba refugee camp after fleeing the besieged city of El-Fasher.
We left El-Fasher last week because of the situation in the city. We face daily shelling and humiliation. The situation is really difficult. There's no medicine, no food. People are suffering a lot.
The last holdout of the Sudanese army in northern Darfur, El-Fasher has been under siege for over a year and is now nearly completely surrounded by RSF fighters. With almost no supplies coming in or out, the city is facing acute shortages of all basic necessities. Witnesses say hospitals have run out of supplies and pockets of famine have begun to spread, forcing residents to eat animal feed.
Mbaz is made from the leftovers of peanut oil manufacturing. We usually feed it to cows, but we've been eating it for the past 3 months.
Around 500,000 people have fled El-Fasher since the fighting began, but hundreds of thousands remain trapped inside the city, unable to afford the costly fees smugglers require to get them out safely.
People have no money to get out because travelling is very costly. That's why people are forced to stay there. We left them behind.
El-Fasher has become one of the main front lines of the Sudanese conflict as the Rapid Support Forces look to consolidate their hold on northern Darfur. The paramilitary group recently announced the creation of a parallel government and began appointing ministers last month.
Let's head to Cameroon now, where there's been a wave of attacks in the restive northwest and southwest regions. This weekend, 7 soldiers died in Malende when their patrol vehicle drove over an explosive device before crashing. A separate incident in Cameroon's English-speaking southwest saw an officer brutally assassinated by gunmen who claimed to be separatist fighters. This as there's barely a month to go till the country's presidential vote. Indira Ayuk reports from Yaoundé.
The incident occurred when the truck the military men were driving in drove over an explosive device which was allegedly planted by armed separatist fighters in the English-speaking region of the country. In a related development, a gendarmerie officer was brutally assassinated by men who claimed to be separatist fighters in Wotutu, in the outskirts of Limbe, in the southwest region of the country. It is believed that he moved about on a day which was stipulated or which was decreed as a lockdown in those parts by armed separatist fighters. Now, the lockdown has been on for close to 2 weeks, and it is an attempt by separatist fighters to serve as an obstacle to school resumption in the 2 English-speaking regions of Cameroon after the 3-month-long holiday. Now, this incident this new wave of attacks comes barely a month to crucial presidential elections, which will see incumbent 92-year-old President Paul Biya face off 11 other candidates to grab another term in office.
This attack is a way for the armed separatists to instill fear among the population, just after they announced they would boycott elections in the Anglophone regions. They're trying to cast themselves as figures of authority by showing they're the ones controlling these areas.
Despite organizing a major national dialogue in 2019 to seek an end to the underreported Anglophone crisis, President Paul Biya has underlined the need for the crisis to come to an end. Now, after this recent attack, government is still to officially react to the assassination of 8 soldiers over the weekend. However, opposition candidate Maurice Kamto was quick to address his condolences to the bereaved families while extending the intention or his hope for a genuine, frank and inclusive dialogue to end the 9-year-long Anglophone crisis.
The International Criminal Court opened its first ever in absentia hearing against Ugandan fugitive rebel leader Joseph Kony, who's evaded arrest for 20 years. Prosecutors presented evidence Tuesday to support their charges of atrocities allegedly committed by his Lord's Resistance Army in northern Uganda between 2002 and 2005. The warlord faces 39 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity, including murder, sexual enslavement, abduction, and forcing children to become child soldiers. Let's hear now from the ICC prosecutor.
When looking holistically at the evidence, there can't be any doubt. Mr. Kony commanded the LRA. He and his co-perpetrators used the apparatus of power that was the LRA to control their fighters, subjugating them to their will, and he exercised control by virtue of his own essential contributions, not only to the common plan, its implementation, but to the crimes. Kony acted with intent and knowledge, which you can see from his own statements, some of which we have presented here today. But overall, his conduct is also of such a nature that it could only have been undertaken intentionally.
Health authorities in Nigeria are investigating the outbreak of a rare flesh-eating disease. At least 30 known cases have been reported in a village in Adamawa State. Some of the victims have lost substantial flesh, which have left their bones exposed and damaged, and authorities are waiting for the results of a test to determine the nature of the disease. Sam Olokoya reports from Lagos.
8 patients affected by the rare flesh-eating disease are in isolation at the Modibo Adama University Teaching Hospital in Yola, Adamawa State. A spokesman for the hospital said the patients manifest a condition that sees their flesh being eaten away while their bones are also damaged. The disease manifests in different parts of the body. Some patients had virtually the entire flesh on their face eaten up by the disease, while some others have lost the flesh in large parts of their leg. Health authorities are unsure about the cause of the disease. Samples have been taken from those infected for laboratory analysis. The results are expected in the coming days. About 30 people are known to be infected by the disease. Most of the infections are from the little village of Malabo in the Fufuro local government area of Adamawa State. The district head of the area said cases of the disease started manifesting some weeks ago, with those affected first experiencing skin irritation. This usually later develops into a little boil before the flesh is lost. The community has not recorded any such disease in the past.
And finally, in Kinshasa, a high-stakes showdown took place for the 2026 World Cup qualifiers, with Senegal pulling off a dramatic comeback against the DR Congo. The Lions of Teranga staged a sensational turnaround to defeat the DRC Leopards 3-2, which allowed them to reclaim the top spot in the group. The 80,000-seat arena was sold out for the high-voltage clash. Let's take a listen now to some fan reactions.
The Senegalese players remained calm. They played hard from start to finish. The Leopards let their guard down, and that was it. The Lions devoured the Leopards in the DRC.
I think there was a small problem with the coaching. We should have taken certain players off. But anyway, the match was what it was. So we can only keep our hopes up for the 2 matches to come.
And that concludes today's edition of Eye on Africa. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned to France 24.